Um, Welcome. Today we are doing our discussion on research. Research is a critical element. In the areas of research, we'll do introduction, what's all about research, then types of research, then similarities and difference of research, then preparation and presentation of research. With that, we start with our introduction. So what is research? The study which involve the unique inquiries and examination of different information for the acquisition of knowledge. It is to solve a particular problem in a particular organization. The systematic way of investigating and examining a system and coming up with policies and regulation which govern the management of the organization. So when you talk about research, these are actually systems which are brought forth to solve a particular problem in an organization. Expansion of work in the field. So when you're doing research, you're expanding the work of research. You start from the unknown area until you end in the known place. Types of research. So they include the following: 1, project; 2, thesis; 3, dissertation. So these are the types of research. So anytime you're dealing with research, you must identify, are you dealing with a project or thesis or dissertation? Now let's look at the similarities. The research undertaken to achieve education qualification from one level to another. So both, whether you're doing project, thesis, or dissertation, it's all about undertaking for achievement of education qualification. They include the following: 1, they are academic documents. So when you're doing a research, you're doing academic document. 2, they are all written to achieve academic degree. So when you're dealing with a research, be it project, be it thesis, be it dissertation, your aim is to achieve academic degrees, be it master's, be it PhD, all is coined for academic qualification. Then they have the same structure. So when you talk about a research, project, thesis, or dissertation, they have the same structure. In other words, there's introduction, there's literature review, there is research methodology, data analysis, conclusion, bibliography, which is normally reference, then appendix. So these are the critical components or in the structure of a research. All have the same structure. We come now to the difference. Distinction of research, or the difference between project, thesis, and dissertation. Now, we have item completion. When you talk about completion, in project, it's actually for the completion of a degree, first degree, which is the bachelor's degree. When you come to thesis, it's for the completion of master's studies. When you come to dissertation, it is actually for the completion of PhD study. Number 2 is purpose. What or why are you doing this particular study? Understanding and competency. So when you're doing a project, it's only for understanding and competency. Number 2, when you're doing a thesis, it's an in-depth done project. So it is inside, you do more depth analysis. Then when you come to PhD, contribute to new knowledge. Come to number 3, the length. The length in terms of coverage. So when you talk about the length, we look at it from the perspective of pages covered. Above 50 pages, that is a project. about 100 to 150 pages, that is for thesis, and 2 to 3 times the length of the thesis. So meaning that it is between 200 and 300 in terms of pages. So when you're writing a dissertation, it must be 2 to 3 times the size of thesis. Objectives. 2 to 3 objectives. So when you're dealing with a project, you have 2 to 3 objectives. When you're dealing with thesis, 3 to 4 objectives. And when you're dealing with dissertation, 5 objectives and above. Duration. Duration, when you talk about duration, we are talking about the period which is covered, the span, the length of a semester. And a semester is normally 3 months. But now when you come to a thesis, between 1 to 3 semesters, that is 1 year and 2 or 3 months. When you come to dissertation, can span several years, between 2 to 4. So that is the composition of duration. Defense. In the project, you don't require a defense, while in thesis, you require a defense. Defense is required. In dissertation, defense is required. Finally, questions. So the questions that you need to structure your project or your thesis or your dissertation, how do you structure your questions? In project, individual or a group. So a project can be done by individual or a group, whereas in thesis, it's only done by only one person. It's an individual endeavor. Dissertation, individual endeavor. So when it comes to number of people to do the project or thesis or dissertation, project, you can do it as a group or individual. But the thesis and dissertation is normally done by all. One person, one thesis. Now, question. When you talk about question, we are looking at, in the project, we talk about research question. In thesis, we talk about hypothesis.